Kremlin queries legality of boycott call. The Kremlin says a call by opposition leader Alexei Navalny for a boycott of the presidential election needs to be checked to see whether it is legal. Mr. Navalny's comments came after he was barred from competing in next year's vote because of a corruption conviction which he says is politically motivated. The Kremlin's suggestion could be a hint of potential repercussions for Mr. Navalny, correspondents say. President Vladimir Putin's supporters have begun his nomination process. Athletes, musicians, celebrities and others met in Moscow to form the 500-strong support group that independent candidates like Mr. Putin require to be registered. The removal of Mr. Navalny by the Central Electoral Commission leaves Mr. Putin with no serious challenger for March's election. Reacting to the decision, Mr. Navalny said barring him from running would deny millions of Russians their vote, and called for a strike by voters. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, "The calls for a boycott will require scrupulous study to see whether or not they comply with the law." Declining to comment on the Commission's decision to remove Mr. Navalny from the race, he rejected allegations that it could undermine the vote's legitimacy. This was a hint that there may still be trouble ahead for Alexei Navalny. There is no doubt that Vladimir Putin is the out-and-out favorite in this election. But after 18 years in power, his team is struggling to inject energy into a predictable process. They want a large turnout, to give Mr. Putin the strongest possible mandate. So Mr. Navalny aims to cut into that with his boycott, arguing that without Mr. Putin's most popular, and strongest critic, these elections are fake and a farce. But Mr. Putin is unlikely to be too worried, unless the boycott really grows. He has already painted Mr. Navalny as a man with no positive program, and one who threatens to plunge the country into chaos. The president's own messages of stability and strength, two reasons why many Russians are backing him for another 6 years in power. Known for his anti-corruption campaign and protests against Mr. Putin, Mr. Navalny, 41, was given a 5-year suspended sentence in a retrial this year on embezzlement charges. The European Union said Mr. Navalny's removal cast serious doubt on the election. Mr. Putin, 65, is seeking a fourth term that would see him become the longest-serving Russian leader since Joseph Stalin. He still retains a massive approval rating and is almost certain to ease to victory in the election. He is running as an independent candidate rather than from the ruling United Russia Party.